Educatedcollins Hearthstone. Like and subscribe. Hello, everybody. So it's been a little bit. It's almost Christmas time. Happy holidays to all of you. Hope you guys are doing wonderful. And today I wanted to do an updated, just like duels guide for people, just because we did one super early on during the, I believe, first couple of days, just to kind of give people like an idea of what's to play. I think the meta is a little bit more developed. They've had their like, I would say, major patch, like major balance update after the release, so things are relatively stable. And I'm just going to talk about some of the meta gameplay that you should be looking at if you're a duels player. So what we have here, we're going to be looking through the HS replay comp. So this is something that Jeeve does on this website, just for solos. And I would say like it's usually not like super helpful to follow it along, but I would say for this particular meta, the S tiers are pretty reliable here for some of the major starting points for duels builds. So we're gonna go over some of the S tiers and what's useful, what's not. I think this is pretty accurate here. So we have 4 comps here, and I would say that's a pretty good understanding for what's strong in duels as well. Just because time warp cards make a lot of the strong comps even stronger, and you just kind of are able to set up crazy boards that really just have super crazy numbers. So if you don't have these like super crazy comps that can take advantage of rapid scaling, then a lot of these like secondary A tier, B tier comps aren't super powerful. And I remember during the first guide, I said it was kind of like a Titus meta, a Macaw meta, and a Poet meta. I would say like the Poet version got removed. Essentially, they cut out the Murloc combining scaling, but it's still pretty much a Titus Macaw meta. There's a lot of things you can do with those 2 cards, and just any rally death rattle stuff like Hand of Dios. Those time warp cards are also really, really powerful, as well as the tier 7 cards also really, really powerful, like the double magnetize card is super busted, but they're still in. So we're going to talk about it. First one's mechs. I think mechs are still pretty powerful even with the adjustments, the nerfs down. I still think they scale super, super well. They work really well with a lot of time warp cards as well. A lot of the time warp cards let you double, triple the cards you're playing. So having like 2 Tituses is really powerful. Having 2 golden tier 6s is really powerful. So things like mechs, Apex is still very good. Now, the thing I do have to warn you, if you are in a mech lobby and another team gets Apexes before you, if you don't have like the tier 7 Demolisher or any super good scaling for the mech, you're going to get outpaced by the person who got it first. So usually if you're playing a mech lobby and you're playing second fiddle, you know that another team has a really good Apexis comp, it's usually not worth it to play Apexis on the back of some other team that is, and you usually want to play some type of scam composition. Scam is going to be very good in almost into every matchup that's S tier, just because the numbers get so high and there aren't too many super playable summon compositions. So if you are struggling and someone gets the Apexes early, just play some Murlocs, play some Scam. That's going to do you a lot better, especially with the ability to get Reborn. Lich King hero power is fairly common, so you can Reborn Leroy's, things like that, and it just can deal with big Apexes a lot better than some other compositions. Like trying to be the second strongest Apexes comp is usually not worth the effort. So Mech's still pretty good. And then Undead and Demons, they're both actually the same comp in reality. So you see Demons and you're like, oh, Demons are a demon comp and it's very different than Undead's with a Undead comp. It's very different. No, they're both Sergeant comps. Sergeant's actually the most important card in both of these comps. They're the reason you'd play this comp. So Sergeant is actually what is Undead and Demons. It's really how you scale. And it's really just a Titus, Macaw Titus comp at the end of the day, just like Apexis, where you want to trigger this as many times as possible. What's really nice about the Sergeant is that it works during combat. The permanent buffing works during combat. So if you have a Crasher and you have a Caretaker, you can trigger the Sergeant a lot of times. Now, Caretaker is what they're suggesting here. That's actually not what you want to be doing in a real Undead comp. What you're actually looking for in this type of Catacomb Crasher comp is the Nagas. So you want Undead and Nagas, and preferably Beasts, to be in this comp, because what you're going to do is you're going to take a Lava Lurker, and then you're going to take the tier 1 Death Rattle spellcraft that gives a crab. You're going to be stacking that crab Death Rattle onto a Lava Lurker. Now, what that means is that your Lava Lurker eventually have 5, 6, 10 crabs in there. So when you actually trigger it with the Macaw or some other, or just, just taunt it or anything, it's going to trigger 10 times, which is going to trigger the Catacomb Crasher 10 times, which is going to give the Sergeant 10 different buffs. So if you have a Titus, it's 20. If you have a Macaw, that can be 30, 40. So many triggers in a single fight. So that's actually the best way to do this. I wouldn't really feel happy about in duos for a Cadaver Caretaker as your engine. You really want Nagas in so you can stack that Lava Lurker, and that's the real Undead comp in duos. That's what you're looking for, not this Caretaker comp. It's pretty baseline. You're going to lose to people that are actually playing Lava Lurker scaling. So that's what I would be looking for. And then demons are the same way. You want Lord of Runes and you want Silent Enforcer. Not because the Lord of Runes scaling is particularly strong, but because every single time you proc the Enforcer, it can hit like 10 different minions, and each 10 minion will proc the Sergeant, because it will trigger the Lord of Runes every time you trigger this, and every time you trigger that, you're going to trigger the Sergeant. So with this, you can get so many stacks on the Sergeant as well. So that's the real way of playing demons, like S tier demons and duos. You're not really playing a Lord of Runes comp. You do have Lord of Runes and you have the Enforcer, but the real reason is because you have a Sergeant and you want to stack the Sergeant, and the Sergeant can get to the thousands of health giving with that. And then Lord of Runes gives you some attack scaling, so you actually have a pretty decent, healthy board. Same thing with the Catacomb, gives you attack scaling, so you have a pretty decent high attack board. So that's the real S tier versions of these comps. You want to be playing Sergeant. That's your main piece you're looking for. But then you can either do Catacomb Crasher with Nagas, or you can do Demon Scaling. You don't really need Catacomb Crasher there. And then Titus and Macaw just make this a lot better. So those are like the safe way, and the pretty strong, but not not exponential scaling like the next one we're going to talk about, but they could easily win lobbies, and they're extremely strong and powerful, and you should be looking for them if mechs, undeads are in. Same thing with demons. And then the last one is elementals. Elementals also have a really high end game. I would say the main payoff is not really the acid rainfall. The main payoff in duos is the amalgam jumping jack. So Jumping Jack is a tier 3 amalgam. When you sell it, it goes to your teammate's board. Now, the really nice thing about Jumping Jack is that you can use Avalanche, and Avalanche will eat the card and give the stats of the Jumping Jack to another card, but the Jumping Jack will then go to your teammate. So what you can do is you can take an Acid Rainfall, pump up your rightmost, and then get a really big Acid Rainfall. Now, the key thing is you don't actually need Acid Rainfall. You just need a minion with really large stats. Now, if you do that with like a Terragosa, if you do that with like a big Bream or anything, it doesn't necessarily matter what you're using to get the big stats. Acid Rainfall is just like very easy and very doable. But you need a big minion, and then you will eat that big minion onto a Jumping Jack, right? Then you'll take that Jumping Jack, get another Jumping Jack, you'll eat that first Jumping Jack onto the second Jumping Jack, right? Then you can pass that Jumping Jack, that one of your Jumping Jacks will move over to your teammate, the teammate will pass you back that Jumping Jack. You can golden that Jumping Jack. Now, there's two ways you can use Eyes of the Earth Mother, which is a tier 6 spell, or you can use the Pirate Golden anything tier 4 or lower. So if pirates are in, this is a lot easier to play this elemental Jumping Jack comp. but you can use either of those two. You golden that jumping jack, it will reset the ability to jump, right? And then you can eat the second jumping jack onto that first jumping jack, basically doubling your stats. And then you'll get the big jumping jack back. Your teammate will pass it over. You can golden that one again, and then cycle onto a new jumping jack. So it just allows you to take, like, you'll start with a 500. You need avalanches, but you'll start with like a 500 minion. A turn will pass, you'll have like a 2,000 minion. A turn will pass, you'll have like an 8,000 minion. A turn will pass, you'll have like a 16. It'll just keep exponentially scaling, and it just becomes so many stats. It's pretty impossible for people to have enough stats to beat this jumping jack exponential scaling. Now, the nice thing as well with jumping with elemental scaling is that if demons are in as well, there's a tier 6 demon that gives you the stats of the first minion that you pass. I mean, the first minion that your teammate sells. So with avalanches, you'll be able to eat that huge jumping jack. Your teammate will have 2 of these demons on the board, and then they will also get that stats, but you still keep the stats of the jumping jack. So you're not losing your stats by doing this. You're just giving your teammate 2 big minions, or if you have more golden versions of that, you can give like 3 or 4 copies of that tier 6 demon. So that can give your teammate a board while you are just scaling these jumping jacks to the moon. And this works every turn, so that demon will keep scaling as well, as long as you're passing that jumping jack first minion that you sell in your turn. So I would say, like, potentially highest potential is elementals. They can just get into the millions of stats, and even though like you can get thousands of stats with the Macaw Titus stuff, it's not going to deal with a huge elemental. Now, the weakness of the elemental comp is that you're going to have maybe 4 or 5 big minions. Now, if the opponent is playing some scam, you can easily have 4 or 5 scam units to kill all those big minions. So you have to have some protection, make sure that your other units are somewhat of a threat, or you have scam yourself so that you can compete if your opponents have enough threats to deal with your big minions. So that's the big weakness of that elemental combo. If your opponents don't have enough big scam units, then you can just kind of run them over with that 1 or 2 big units or the big demons that your teammate will have. So I would say those are the main 4 comps that you'll be looking for. And I would say everything else doesn't matter except for scam. And scam and then early tempo compositions. So scam Leroy's base skills into ball spitters and thrashers, and the duel has even more. Those are also very good. I would say like that's number 5. If you don't know what to do, that's probably what you should be playing. And then in the early game, sometimes you're not going to have enough time to set up, but you need to get a board. These high tempo compositions are pretty nice. So that can be an early Bream. It doesn't really matter what it is, but some of the ones that do really well is an early Goldrin that can work really well. An early Eudora that can also work pretty well. Maybe if you get 2 Panthers, that could do something. A Burra early can do something. You know, there's a couple like things that can spike really fast, really early. Those are the comps that can keep you alive if these are into to look for these S tier compositions and play those out. So I wouldn't necessarily look at like Pirate APM or Undead attack scaling. A lot, even Ballers, like a lot of these comps don't really stand up to the power level of duos. They can be fine, and you can play APM if you have money. If you just want to like really have a ton of money and then find these S tier comps, or just use the money to get a big minion, and then you can use a big minion to pass on their jumping jack that way. There's things you can do with these other comps, but they're really not going to be the comps that win you high tier duos games. So I really wouldn't look at these anything in the A below. It's really just the S tier and scam, S tier, and then the Venom comps. Those are like the real high tier duo comps. So I just wanted to kind of give the update for what people are playing now. There's a lot of nonsense in this meta. So there's some heroes that can do some crazy things. There's some time warp cards that can do some crazy things. So I haven't really added that into the equation. Your plans can change based on what hero you're playing and what time warp cards you get. But if you know the baseline levels of like, oh, mechs are really strong, sergeants and undead are really strong, and you can combo that with that, or and then jumping jack elemental scaling is really strong, and you can combo that with demons, stuff like that. That's going to help you a lot for knowing like what's the best thing to play to win this comp, because that's really what you have to do in duos. You have to look at the lobby, see what minion types are in, and then figure out what's the strongest thing to play. Because with two people in your team, the likelihood that one of you finds a key piece to play one of these S tier comps is super high, and then if you can do that, then you have a good shot at winning that lobby. So just a quick update, we haven't done like a time warp analysis. That's something I want to be doing, but we haven't done that yet. Going through all the time warp cards and then kind of giving you guys on what's worth picking up and what's not, but that's something we're going to work on. But for now, I just wanted to give you like, here are the S tier things that you want to be looking for in duos, and here, you know, everything else is pretty much worth ignoring. I would say if you want to play not a non S tier comp, mechs have to be out, undeads have to be out, demons have to be out, and murlocs probably also have to be out. So a lot of things need to be out in the lobbies to really play like pirates or dragons or something like that. Like a lot of things have to be gone. So most of the time you're gonna have something worth playing. So it's really hard to have like a super weak lobby. So usually there's gonna be something obviously worth playing, and then you're gonna play that instead of trying to play like a low tier or non S tier composition. So that's just something I wanted to put out. Hope you have a nice Christmas. It was just an update for the duos meta guides and the kind of stuff you should be looking for. So hope you guys have a nice one. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.